We lost a day to a blizzard.
Yeah.
And then the day before our next bowling day, like we had bowled a week for a couple weeks, and then it was like we're about to go into playoffs, and the USBC sent out an email basically being like, shut it down. We don't want to be responsible for COVID-19 getting spread through bowling balls.
This shoe sanitizer is not going to do it.
No, not at all. I mean, they stopped tennis. You're like a mile away from each other, and they were like... Good afternoon, Team Dyess. My name is Nicholas Pinto, and to my right is, as always, Ryan Baker. We're here to talk to you today about a couple of skills here that we've learned, and we're going to pass on to you.
They are balance your thinking and celebrating good news.
That's absolutely right. How you doing today, Ryan?
I'm doing good. How you doing, Nick?
I'm doing fantastic. It's been a great Friday, and it's only going to get better.
True that.
All right, so as you can see up on our slideshow, we've got our first slide for balance your thinking. So how does balance your thinking as a skill, how's it going to help you? Well, first, it helps see situations accurately and take action based on evidence. Something you're going to see that's going to be reoccurring throughout this entire presentation is going to be evidence backing up your actions in pretty much any situation. It will also help us respond in ways that align with our values and support our goals. Ultimately, this is going to help us improve performance because we are reacting to facts and evidence. Again, like I said, evidence is a big one. Facts will, of course, bring us to a proper conclusion when we want to react to a situation. So cognitive traps, we're going to talk about this a little bit. It's the pitfalls of what's going to happen when you're trying to balance your thinking. There's a couple of them. So cognitive traps are going to interfere with the accuracy of how we react to any situation. You'll see this a lot in daily life. Is a couple of these you're going to see are very common. They often involve jumping to conclusions. So jumping to conclusions is something that we are all obviously human, our faults. It's our fault. It's something that we are ought to do. And then we all get stuck in them. So like I said, it's something that we're all going to do. The point of this whole thing is to make sure that we can avoid them and then react properly. So balancing your thinking is going to involve a ton of other, a couple of the other lessons and skills that we learned in previous examples and skills that we had learned earlier. And we're going to be able to apply to this skill. So examples of cognitive traps are the all or nothing, the confirmation bias, blaming others, blaming yourself, and mind reading. We're going to get into all of these as we move on. So the all or nothing. Now, this is one that we kind of all fall into. I'm sure you've been in this case many times. The reason why it's the number one is because it's something that we're just kind of commonly, we're all taught to almost do, is that the world is black and white and that there is either false or true options. And when you're dealing with a relationship, whether it be something at home or whether it's something in the workplace, the all or nothing is one of those pitfalls that comes up very very often. So it is the reason why it is our number one. So you're looking at things in an extreme way. For example, nothing ever works out for me. So a lot of times people say, like, I never win anything, right?
You've won something.
You've won something. But the reason why that comes up is because it's very easy. It's one of the easiest pitfalls to go into. So it's one of the ones that we need to avoid. So you don't want to use those reactive terms that bring you into the all or nothing. If you find yourself using words like everything, always, or never, then you're really falling into that before you can even have time to think about how you're reacting to something. So generally most things have gray areas. Let's just put it that way. Number two is our confirmation bias. So this is our second pitfall. This is something that we fall into as far as traps go. And confirmation bias is when we're attracted to information that supports what we already believe, and it's basically ignoring any evidence that will be against what we want to hear. And then sometimes we'll think we're fighting confirmation bias by asking others for advice, but we subconsciously already know that person is going to give us that advice that would match what we're thinking, right?
Right, they're going to agree with you 100%, no matter what you can do no wrong.
Right.
So those people are just going to add to that confirmation bias. And you already knew you're going to get the confirmation bias from anyway. That's
right.
why you went to them.
That's right. We're all pretty good at finding out who our yes men are, right? Or our yes friends are. Yeah. So confirmation bias is one that we really want to avoid. Again, it's another trap. So our third trap that we can fall into in trying to balance our thinking is going to be blaming others and blaming yourself, or blaming yourself. So blaming others consists of focusing on other people as the cause of the event, maybe, or the cause of not necessarily what's happening to you, but what's happening in the world. And one of these examples that we have is, I went to bed late because my roommate kept me up watching movies.
You could have gone to sleep.
Could have gone to sleep.
Star Wars is not that good. You could have gone to sleep.
Wow.
I said it.
You heard it here, folks.
I said it.
Ryan said Star Wars was not that good. We're going to move on because I don't want to fight right now. No, go ahead and go back. McLevin, thank you. So blaming yourself is the other half of this trap. So ignoring the contributions of others. So in this situation, we're talking about, like, I missed making the final free throw in a game. And if I had made it in, we would have won the whole game, and it's all my fault that we lost.
Yeah, you really ignore everything else that everybody else put into it too. You know, Jimmy could have had the game of his life, but now you just made it all about yourself.
That's right. So it doesn't matter how many points you scored, you're putting the onus on yourself that it is your fault because of the last thing that happened. And in life, this comes up all the time, is like putting the blame either on yourself or somebody else because it was the last thing to have happened before a negative outcome. There's a lot of other events that lead up to that. So making sure that you take a step back in the moment will help you alleviate that feeling that you need to blame somebody else because it was the last thing, or blame yourself because you did the last thing before you had a negative outcome. Mm-hmm. So let's move on to our next trap. Our next trap is mind reading. We all think that we're some sort of clairvoyant when it comes down to it, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to personal relationships. Personal relationships can be something at home, and it can also be something that you have a professional personal relationship at work. So a professional personal relationship could be something where you are friends, like you're good friends with somebody at work, but you're also a coworker with them. And this is something that comes up. It comes up all the time. Like, you know, we're good friends, but we're also coworkers, mm-hmm. and we've got other people that we work with in the detachment where we're all pretty close. We're a close-knit family, but we need to have a professional relationship with them, right, as well as a personal one. And when it comes down to working together, sometimes we think that the other person can read our minds, or we think we can read their minds. So there's two forms of this. Like it says on the PowerPoint, you can assume we know what the other person is thinking of, or on the other side, we can expect the other person to know what we are thinking of. So a good example of that would be I'm leaving work, and because Ryan is the last person to leave work, I know that he knows he should take the trash out.
I didn't take the trash out.
He didn't take the trash
Totally
out.
forgot about it.
But it shouldn't be on me, considering we're peers and we work together in that facet, that he should know automatically he's the last one in the building and should be taking the trash out. Maybe he's also thinking the flip side of the mind reading, in which he thinks that somebody else...
Yeah, you're leaving? I thought you might have got it.
Somebody else might have got it. That's right. So we want to avoid that mind reading trap, and the way to avoid the mind reading trap is through
effective communication.
Effective communication. We should always be expressing what we think is happening, maybe our expectations, or what we think the other person might think that we are thinking. So that might seem a little bit convoluted, but it's really important to express how you're feeling and how you think the other person might be thinking you're feeling. So that'll really clear the table of the mind reading. It also is a cure for mind reading, especially if the other person might be into that trap as well. Here's a fun cartoon. If everybody at home wants to read along or just take a quick look at this, it is an absolute play on what we had just talked about.
Yeah.
Or somebody in this personal relationship believes the other person knows exactly what they're thinking, and the other one is saying, no, you don't. So, in fact, just speak your mind. Come on. It's a sad couple. Just staring at each other over a paper. Okay. So, moving on. We are going to move on to how to actually get out of these traps. So if you're stuck in a trap, there's 3 ways to balance your thinking, and that is why this skill is called that, because what we need to do is realize that we're in a trap, and we're going to kind of move the bar to the other side and pull ourselves out of that trap. So the first thing that we can do is examine the evidence. The second is going to be check for a double standard, and the third will be phone a friend or ask. We're going to move forward to examine the evidence. So our first strategy, like I said, is examine the evidence. What this is going to entail is asking yourself a few questions. Is there any evidence to support this thought? Right? So the first thing you want to do is say, I have this thought. What do I know about the situation that might actually back up the reason I'm thinking this way?
Right. It's really just, you're kind of jumping to conclusions. You need to think, okay, is that actually the way it is, or is that just the way I think that it is?
Right. So find that evidence, find those facts in the situation, and see if they support what you're thinking. Now, on the flip side of that coin, is there any evidence that challenges what I'm thinking? And usually, you're going to find that every situation has a pros and cons list, not just in life, but also mentally, what you're thinking about, what supports and what challenges my thought. So in any situation, make sure that you look at the pros and cons. Now, this is one of those things that's going to take you a minute to slow down. You got to regroup before you respond to a situation. This is really good as far as strategies to get out of a trap for a professional setting where it's not necessarily like life and death. You're in an office setting and you're able to take your time and think about something before you react to it. So there could be something that gets you real hot. It could be your hot button topic, it could be something that comes up constantly and that you need to take a step back from and look to see what evidence supports your thought or what evidence challenges that thought. And then the last thing with examining the evidence is finding out, am I missing any information? Because I know we all think that we're omnipotent and we can get all the information almost immediately, but I can guarantee you, even myself, I miss a ton of information before I react to a situation. So this is one of those things that I always try to do before I jump in to react to anything. Make sure that I have all of that evidence.
Right. It's really bad when you look back in a situation and you go, "Damn, I really was missing something here. That was kind of key. That definitely would have changed your mind later on." So it really just helps to, step one, examine the evidence, take a step back for a minute.
You never feel like more of a dirtbag when you react to something and realize you completely missed a little bit of evidence. So make sure that you check for that.
Definitely.
So the second strategy to get out of these traps is going to be checking for a double standard. There's two parts to this. So the questions you want to ask yourself when you're going into a scenario and you want to check yourself is, would I judge other people as harshly if they did the same thing? And the second one is, am I judging myself more harshly than I would judge someone else? So would I judge other people as harshly if they did the same thing? I mean, that can apply to either yourself or somebody else. So I'm judging somebody else based on would I react the same way with me, or if I would react the same way with my friend maybe. So we talked about those personal relationships where you have a good friend who's a coworker.
Right.
So
like, would we judge a coworker harshly than if our best friend did it? Like, so take the trash thing. Like, I really care if someone that I just kind of work with, would I care as much as my best friend didn't take trash out, or would I care more if so-and-so did over here? 9 times out of 10, you're probably not going to care about your best friend, but that is a double standard that you need to watch out for.
Yep. Yeah, definitely. So in the professional world, you want to make sure that your judgment is non-biased and has like no different colors as far as when it comes to your personal professional relationship and then your professional relationships with people that maybe you don't have a personal connection with. So this can range from anywhere between, an NCO talking to an airman or an NCO talking to a senior NCO. You want to make sure that connection that you have does not affect how you are making a judgment on the situation. And then the second part is, am I judging myself more harshly than I would judge someone else? So this again is now the inward instead of the exterior. So falling into this trap is not necessarily a reaction. It can also be a reaction to yourself. So an internalization of that event. And am I judging myself more harshly than I would judge someone else comes up a lot. So we'll go back to that example about shooting the basket, missing that free throw and blaming yourself for the whole loss of that game. Would you judge yourself as harshly as it was somebody else on that basketball court? Like, do you feel would you be angry with somebody else if they had missed the last shot?
No, I generally think that, be like anybody else, like, it's okay, like, we did good,
Right.
those are best. You're just kind of taking it more on yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're our own worst critic. That tends to be how it goes, right?
Yeah.
We have a lot of time inside of our own brains to kind of think about those things. So let's not necessarily judge ourselves too harshly, but at the same time, make sure that you are not unchecked internally. Right. So our third strategy is going to be phone a friend or ask. Now, this is, I think, one of the most important ones, because all the previous strategies require you to kind of be alone in your thinking. And this is going to be the one that opens up that door to the aha, I completely missed that aspect or that perspective. So phoning a friend is when you find someone who is unbiased, and there's a reason why that's bold and italicized, is because it is the most important part. You need to find someone who is unbiased and doesn't necessarily just agree with your thought, but can back up why and give you a perspective that would maybe give you more evidence towards the situation and the reaction that you might have had. This can be done prior or post, right?
Definitely. You can definitely have a situation occur, take a step back, go find somebody who isn't necessarily as involved, and ask for a third-party opinion. Again, the key word here is unbiased. Do not ask your bestest friend for their opinion, because they're probably just going to agree with you, unless that person is just really cut to the core of it.
Yeah, I think that there's a lot to say about your best friend versus your friends kind of situation, because your best friend sometimes will tell you, nah, you're wrong.
Yeah.
That was wrong. So the second half of this is going to be ask the person or people involved to get more clarity. So whether it was a situation that people were around you or it was something that they heard about after you had already reacted to it, get their opinion, because if the situation hasn't come to a head yet where you've already reacted to it, you can get that information from them and say, was I missing a piece of this? Like, was there something that I missed?
Right, it plays with that gathering information and evidence portion.
Yeah.
So it gets you out of that trap at the same time.
Yeah, we're only two eyeballs. We're only two ears. Finding more sources of information in our peers is the way to go, because they can give you a lot more clarity. That's for sure.
Definitely.
Yeah. Okay, so as far as our traps and our strategies, that is what we have. It's a great skill. So what we're going to do now is we're going to try and practice it. So if you're at home and you have a partner, that's great. You can play along. If you do not have a partner and you are by yourself, you can also play along. You're just going to be a little, I don't know, I guess schizophrenic. For
Talking
this
yourself.
part. Talk to
Talking
yourself. Give it a shot. We'll see what comes up. So our activity, we move on to our next slide. Everybody can take a look. So we're in an activity here, and we're going to have an activity in Balance Your Thinking. Your first step is going to be select an event you feel you didn't handle well that ended up in an unhelpful reaction. So, Ryan, hit me up with an unhelpful reaction that came from a situation that you were involved in.
So there we were.
I love that.
There we were. There I was. It was hot. I was deployed. IUD, right? So
You say IUD?
IUD.
Oh, this is gonna be a good one.
That's gonna be a good one. But we were there. We had just got called out to look at something for another shop. I'm aircraft maintenance by trade, so we went out there to look at it. It was nearing the end of the day, nearing the end of shift change. We said, we'll go ahead and fix it anyway. That's fine. And then for whatever reason, my shop ended up getting left behind that day, and I was already hot and tired. And I let the bus driver know exactly how I felt about that situation.
I'm assuming it was negative.
It was negative. It was very, very
Okay.
negative. How I felt at the time. Yeah.
Okay, so you get left behind at work. You're deployed, hot, sweaty. We know the environment that we're in there.
Yeah.
And you've been working. You get called out to a spot to go work a job.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, everybody else in that shift is leaving.
They're going home. Back to the dorms.
They've left you behind.
Yeah.
All right. And your reaction was you told the bus driver in your own words how you felt.
I got my phone out and I let know exactly how I felt about it.
So you wrote him a nastygram.
A couple of nastygrams.
A couple of nastygrams. Okay, some expletives in there.
Yeah,
maybe?
yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
all right,
definitely,
perfect.
Definitely.
Okay, so that would be an unhelpful reaction to the situation that we're in. So hopefully everybody at home has that good unhelpful reaction to a situation, and they know it to themselves. They've kind of said it out loud, or they've thought about it, or they said it to their partner. So our second step is going to be record your thoughts and reactions. So let's think about those thoughts that you had. Let's talk about that. So what were your thoughts in the moment leading up to your reaction?
My thoughts were I'm hot.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why I left this.
Okay.
We're just about done.
Mm-hmm.
Should have been out here anyway.
Shouldn't have been out there. There's another shift, right?
There was another shift coming. I was like, we'll fix it. Whatever.
Right.
It'll take 5 minutes.
Right.
So.
And you just wanted to get back and eat chicken and go work out, right?
Go work out. Do my thing. Go
That's
sleep.
Right. My time's gone.
Yeah.
Okay. So those are your thoughts. Hot, sweaty, felt betrayed, you got left behind. There's somebody else who could be doing this. Let's talk about the traps that you might have fallen into at that point. So what trap do you think you landed in that thought process?
Definitely, it's kind of one of those all or nothing. It's like this always happens. Anytime I go out there, it helps me out. This always happens. Why do we keep doing this?
Yeah, there's something about being over in the deployed environment that definitely makes everything very black or white, whether it needs to be or not.
Yeah.
How about blaming somebody else?
Definitely.
Definitely
I definitely did that.
Okay.
There's a lot of that.
Yeah. This is that guy's fault.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay, so step 2, still in there. We talked about your thoughts. Hopefully everybody else is kind of gathering up and reminiscing on those thoughts. What about reactions? So the reaction that you had, let's talk about that reaction.
It was very outward, obviously. It was just very aggressive.
Okay. So. And it was all coming because you were in those traps.
Right.
Okay. So our third step in balancing your thinking is going to be select a thought that resulted in an unhelpful reaction, and then try and balance your thinking. So we're going to be looking back on it now, and we're going to try and balance our thinking, and we're going to use one of or all of the 3 cures for our traps, or ways to get out of this. So did you examine the evidence? And now how would you examine the evidence if you were to look back on it?
I think now it definitely would have been like, all right, was everybody else ready to go? Were they only waiting on us?
Ooh.
What else was happening that day? Kind of looking at the big picture.
Okay.
Because looking back, examining, like I really was only concerned with me and my guys at that point. But we got a shift of like 50 people.
Okay.
On that shift.
So there's a lot more than just you.
Yeah.
So the evidence is saying there was a lot of other people waiting to go home.
Yeah.
All right. So that's examining the evidence. And that's a good example of how to examine the evidence, is to maybe just straight up numbers.
Yeah.
You were just how many people staying behind?
3 or 4.
About 3 or 4 people as opposed to the entire shift of 50. So good evidence gathering there. Double standard. How would you apply the checking for a double standard to this?
So given that I was also a bus driver on that shift, yeah, I probably wouldn't have cared if I did. I would have been like, tough luck, and we kept driving. It's just you guys,
And would that have been the right thing to do, now that you look back on it?
Yeah, definitely just make sure they got a ride home, and then, obviously we did because we got home. We didn't walk home. We had found a ride pretty easy.
You're not still there.
Yeah,
You're here. You're not still
1 year later, I'm still
at that jet on the flight line. So checking for a double standard, check. Good job. Like you said, you were also a bus driver, and you probably would have gone as well, because examining the evidence from before, it's 50 other people waiting to go home. I'm not going to judge myself as harshly.
Yeah.
Probably should have done the same thing in the moment.
Yeah.
Phone a friend or ask. Did that ever happen? Did you ever phone a friend or ask in the moment?
Yeah, so I did. Not in the moment.
Okay.
It was a little bit later.
Okay.
A little bit later, I asked somebody, hey, do you think that I kind of went overboard or I blew up? And that person was like, yes, 100%, you totally did. So definitely found that person who I knew it was just going to give me an honest opinion.
Okay.
Just because of how he was.
Right.
And he did. So.
Do you still know this person?
I do.
That's good.
I do.
You need to keep that person in your pocket.
Definitely.
Very good to be told that maybe there was a little bit of an overreaction.
Yeah.
But it is a good thing that you did get that evidence. And then that actually leads us to our 4th step in how to balance your thinking, which is, do you need to reframe your thoughts based on the new evidence, and what might you do differently next time? So let's talk about that reframe. Okay, so this is a skill that was taught previously, and if you want to kind of just throw a quick summary in on reframing, what you would have done in this situation with the new evidence that you have.
Right, so if it's shifting your thinking and how, right? So obviously I'm very, very angry because I feel like I've personally been wronged in this case when I haven't. I'm probably more mad because I'm hot and I'm tired.
That's probably what it was.
Yeah.
So the quick reframe, obviously, in there is just shifting your thinking to being maybe these outward pressures that are on me right now are actually changing how I'm supposed to be thinking.
Yeah.
So totally. And then in the future, the second half of that question is what might you do differently next time this comes up?
Just take a breather.
Take
a step back. Take a breather. What do we got to do?
Yeah. We don't want to release.
Yeah.
We'll release the muscle man on everybody every time. Right? Okay.
Try not to.
So that's step 4 there. Hopefully everybody is kind of talking about that right now, how to reframe things, how to, again, shift your thinking so that you can apply all the evidence that you have learned through either gathering evidence or talking to somebody else, and then being able to apply that to the future. So whatever situation you might have been in where you were able to just work through right now, see what lessons you've learned about maybe not just yourself, but about how you think and how the world is going to react to you when you think like that. Was there any repercussions from that? I'm curious.
A little bit of awkwardness between me and that individual that I shit up, but
Right.
we met up in our own way.
That's good. That's good. All right. So our debrief. What was helpful? So out of that whole activity we just did, what was the most helpful part, you think?
Definitely just looking back at it and seeing how it didn't need to go the way that it did.
Okay.
It didn't need to go the way, but it did. And kind of seeing how and why it led up to that is helpful. Because a lot of times we don't see, where we went wrong.
And now you do.
Yeah, now I do.
That's very helpful. And then what was challenging? So not necessarily right now because you've had a lot of time to think about it, right? I'm sure we all kind of do this debrief in our head after a situation unfolds, and you've already said you've made up with this person in your own ways, which I'm sure were very manly. But what was the challenging part about you thinking back on this, even in that moment and now? Was there anything that was kind of hard for you to get past?
Yeah, definitely. First, just having to admit that you messed up in the first place. So like step 1 of this, identify a situation that you didn't handle well.
Right.
So you already had to kind of admit your own fault there. And definitely just looking back and going, okay, you kind of seeing how these like little tiny thoughts that you had erupted in like bigger ways, possibly.
Totally. Yeah.
And it didn't need to. So it's kind of like, man, how long have I been doing that?
So the challenging part for you, and I think most people, you're obviously not alone with this, is that first step. How to admit that there was an unhelpful reaction to something, and make sure. So once we do that and you get past that, the rest should be easy for you because you're obviously somebody who has very strong internal combustion in your brain. You're able to think about a lot. And then the other question we have in our debrief is how will you use this skill in the future? Obviously, you've come a long way from sending nasty grams to people.
I've tried.
You've done a good job. I haven't gotten any, and I'm sure I've deserved some. So, as far as what you're going to do in the future, how will you use the skill in the future?
Definitely just realizing that, hey, if we take a step back, then, negative things may happen, but they might not be as impactful.
Right. Perfect. Yeah, take that step back. Give yourself that breathing moment, right? Because in one breath, you can think about a lot. Brain fires very quickly. So. All right. That's gone. Okay, so in review, hopefully everybody was able to make it through that exercise, that activity, and got something useful out of it. I know we did. I know you a lot better now about that. So in review, balance your thinking helps you perceive situations accurately and take action based on evidence. We keep talking about that. Again, it's not bold on this screen, but it's been bold on this other one. Evidence. Make sure you are gathering the evidence if you can in the moment. If you need to take a minute, a lot of situations, especially in professional life, allow you to take a step back and say, I'll get back with you on something. So what we talked about is determine if you are in a cognitive trap. We talked about those cognitive traps, some of the most prevalent ones. We talked about that almost ultimatum thinking of that always, never, me, you kind of situation. And we want to talk about avoiding those traps, then using those 3 strategies to get you out of those traps, right? So we talked about examining the evidence. Again, evidence. Check for a double standard, and then phone a friend or ask. So use those 3 to get out. You don't need to be in that pit for too long. And then our third thing that we talked about was how to revise your interpretation of the event if needed. So revising it in the situation that you're in, that's good. The best thing that we can do right now as you're learning these skills is think about past events and then think about how you should have reacted, knowing how to balance your thinking now, and then how you're going to apply that to the future. How you're going to make that revision become something that's not necessarily something you think about, but something you do. Yeah,
That was good.
thank you.
That was good.
Thank you. That's not on here at all. Come up with that. All right. So that was balance your thinking. The next skill we're going to move into is
Celebrating good news.
yes, this is my favorite.
It's a good one.
Love this. The best one.
That's a good one. All right, so celebrating good news. How does it help us? It's going to build, strengthen, and maintain our important relationships. These are critical for resilience. If we don't have good relationships, then we're probably not going to be too resilient.
Probably not. We rely on each other, right?
Celebrating good news, it's going to build it up by focusing on the good. Especially nowadays, there's not too much to be excited about unless we talk about it. And if we don't talk about it, then we're never going to know it existed in the first place. But a lot of times even if somebody is celebrating good news with us or trying to, we can dampen that. We can squash it, like we're going to talk about. So we have some negative responses that are going to deflate that good news. That person's little balloon of happiness, you just go up there and you pop it. It's awful. So we have what's called the squash, right? So we're going to pull out problems that is going to provide negative feedback. So I just recently booked a vacation on a cruise. I'm excited about it. Nick, go ahead and squash that for me.
You're going on a cruise?
A cruise.
I mean, have you heard about the coronavirus?
Boom.
Like,
Pop. No, I don't want to go anymore. I don't want to get sick.
I'm serious. I'm just kidding.
I have.
You're
It's a year out. It's a year out. Hopefully it's gone. I got the insurance.
You got the insurance. All right. Good.
All right, then we have a shutdown, right? It's going to respond with low energy, doesn't care that much, or is distracted. That's nice. So Nick, I'm going on a cruise, man. I booked it last night.
You know what? That's cool.
Boom, pop. Nick doesn't care about it. And we have the steal, right? It's going to focus on him or herself, and it's going to ignore the event entirely. Nick, I'm going on a vacation.
Oh, that's cool. I went on a vacation like a couple weeks ago. I actually went to Italy, and you should see all these pictures that I got about it. It's awesome. So, like, I went and saw the Leaning Tower, and that's enough.
Yeah,
That's a steal.
See,
That right there.
Boom. Focus just went away.
Yeah. I'm junior right here, man. Yeah. Stole it. All the bases.
Oh. But those are all very bad things that we don't want to do with somebody when they're showing good news. And a lot of times, we're not even aware that we're doing these things, right? It's as simple as, somebody comes up and it's telling you you're just working on a computer and you're really not paying attention to them, right? We're not probably even realizing that we're doing that, but we are doing it.
Well, I agree. I think these are very subconscious.
Yeah.
These are down there.
Yeah. You probably didn't intend to do it, but just be aware of that little mental check-in.
Mm-hmm.
But to help us celebrate good news, we're going to practice SABB, right? So S is for show enthusiastic support. You got to ask questions. You got to be authentic. That is key. You cannot fake this skill. You cannot. People are going to know 100% if you're faking it.
Oh, yeah.
And want to be engaged and interested. That doesn't mean that you got to stop everything that you're doing in your day and 100% focus on them for like 2 hours. That's not what this is saying. This is saying even if it's for 5 minutes, those 5 minutes, give them those 5 minutes.
Yeah, just realize that this person brought something to you, so they are at least giving you the energy and time to share something with you. So maybe give them the time of day to actually listen and make that part of your daily routine to listen to people when they bring you things.
Definitely. Yeah. Even if it's just, turn away from the computer for 5 minutes, say, hey, I actually got to take care of some stuff, but I'll get back with you.
Yeah. You're really good about that. You turn around every single time I start talking to you.
I try.
Yeah.
I try. All right. So, it's not about the news. It's actually about the person, right? You don't care about the news, maybe. You may not care that I'm going on a cruise, but you care about me. I would hope anyway. Right? So you can listen to me, right? You're going to help me savor that moment. I'm obviously excited about this. I want to live in this high.
Yeah.
I'm happy. It's going to be a good day. Nothing can bring me down today, like many a song have said. All right. But let's say that I'm going on this cruise, and also my stimulus checks, I'm going to put those on red.
Ooh.
All of them at the same time, right? So that's something to be concerned about.
Yeah.
Right.
Let's not celebrate the dangerous news, please.
Right? So that's what we call an A-B conversation, right? So we want to celebrate, hey, you're going on a cruise.
That's fantastic. We should probably talk about, proper spending of money and finance.
Yeah.
But also, I'm really happy that you're going on that cruise.
Yeah. That's an AB conversation. We're going to bring up the concerning things later. This is absolutely 100% no different than a safety brief. When your airman's like, oh, man, we're going to go party, and there's going to be a DJ and a llama.
Don't get me started on llamas.
But you want to make sure that they have a way home. You want to make sure that nobody's going to end up getting a DUI, etc. Right? AB conversation. You're excited about the party. You just want to make sure they're safe.
Yeah, that's right. Have a great weekend. Have a plan.
It's also going to provide a gateway conversation. When we celebrate good news, typically when somebody comes in super hyped up about something, you end up talking for way longer than you intended on, and you usually end up on several tangents.
Yeah, that's actually one of those things where you can move into a different conversation. So you have that really good conversation, and it builds that relationship that you're talking about, where maybe you can have a conversation about something that's negative. So you have that really good conversation, and then this person will then be able to open up to you. You've built that relationship. You get that professional, personal relationship.
Yep. Which leads us into putting money in the bank. Let's celebrate good news. So, like Nick was talking about, when we have those good news moments, we can imagine putting money into a little piggy bank. The more that we have, the better that relationship is. Now, if I can come to you with what seems like anything, I'm probably going to come to you with my bad things too. Right?
Yeah.
Because if you can't celebrate the simple, easy things with me, why would I come to you with the hard stuff?
Yeah. So celebrating is just the same thing as, giving, almost like consoling somebody.
Right.
It's just the two sides of the same coin. Like, somebody's going to spend their time to come to you with a good thing. They're probably, if you're receptive to it, going to come to you with the negative thing, the bad thing that they don't necessarily want to talk to anybody else about. But you're going to make them feel good. You're going to make them feel warm and fuzzy so that they do come to you when they're not feeling so warm and fuzzy.
Yeah. That's definitely important. You're investing in their relationship with that person. All right, now we're going to move into our activity for celebrating good news. This one is much less introspective than the last one. So, again, you can do this by yourself, which is a lot easier because now you got your phone. Just text somebody, right? You're going to tune a partner, and you're just going to share good news with them. The only thing the partner has to do is hype you up about it. That's all we got to do.
Yeah, so if you got a pair, you got somebody you can do this with at home, that's great. Give it a shot. And then let's try and apply what we learned earlier about this.
Yeah,
for sure.
So, Nick, how you doing, man? What you got going on today?
So I'm doing well because my wife texted me earlier, and she said that she actually went and watered the front and back lawns, which is a big deal to me because I've spent the last... I don't want to put it up like too big of a number, but I've spent a lot of months working on my lawn, like off season, on season, and I am trying to get this thing like barefoot ready. I want barefoot Contessa in my backyard. I want a little bit of wine and be able to walk around barefoot, do the whole thing out there without stepping on like weeds and like those little pricky things that are back there. And so I finally got it. Texas is like the harshest place to grow a lawn for some reason. I'd rather grow one in like Iceland than here, but it's working. I finally got it, and she's watering it, and it's making me really happy because it's actually growing thick, super thick, and I'm loving it. So that's what's going on with me. I'm going to go home today. I'm probably going to water it again. And I think in maybe like 2 days I'm going to use some more of this fertilizer that I have, and it's going to be awesome.
So what do you got to do? You said you're working with it in the off season. So what do you have to do in the off season exactly?
So in the off season with grass, now this is just what my lawn has responded to, and I've had a couple lawns in the past, and they're all different. So the first step you need to do is actually go ahead and get a sample of the soil. So a soil sample is like number one thing. And what you want to do is make sure that you don't have too acidic of soil, which is a problem here because most of the soil is clay based. So, we got really like clay ground here. So if that's the case, you need to kind of balance the soil type, and then you're going to use wintertime fertilizers, which can either come in a spray or a spread, and you can get a spreader and do the whole hand one or the walking one, or if you got a big lawn, you got to do it with like the toe behind thing. So you got like a Cub Cadet or like a John Deere or something. And then on top of doing the fertilizer, you're also going to want to make sure that you clean your lawn. So like if it's fall and you're lazy and you leave all the leaves on your lawn, that is going to skyrocket. I mean, like just acidic level is going to go super high, which is a problem because, like I said, the grass here cannot grow properly in really acidic soil. because you already have so much clay, which is constantly feeding back into that acidic cycle. So you want to make sure that you neutralize that acidic cycle by getting all the leaves off your lawn and really kind of clearing it off, because the leaves will decay, and when they decay, it turns the soil acidic. So, yeah.
That was intense.
Thanks. I'm really into this. Like, soil right now, I'm like, my lawn is so good. I cannot express to you how good my lawn is right now. It's been 5 years. I've been living in this house, and this lawn has never been better than it is right now. Like, I would show you pictures right now.
That's awesome, though.
I love it. I'm a big fan.
But
thanks for listening. Like, that was awesome. Like, I'm really excited about this.
Hey, man, I'm here for you.
I appreciate it.
But that is celebrating good news. All right, it was easy. I asked like 2 questions, and they just kept talking about grass.
I'm a talker. Guilty.
But on the real side, some people might not be talkers.
Mm-hmm.
They might not be. So you might have to like dig for information a little bit. That's fine too. Either way, as long as you are enthusiastically showing support for them and just being authentic about it. Talk about
a lot of words.
Water the lawn.
Water the mouth.
All right. So we're often going to use Saturdays to deflate good news with those who care about most, right? So in the past few weeks, has anybody actually share good news with you? Think back about that. Like, was somebody in person telling you, right? It's easy when we get on social media to kind of like, doing so good, loving life, and people just throw up, emojis or GIFs, whatever we call them, I don't know. Right? It's easy because it doesn't take any kind of interaction. In person, it's harder because you actually got to, body language, facial expressions.
I've caught myself writing out like a message on social media and then just being like, emoji.
Yeah.
Just give them just a thumbs up or a smiley face. It's just so impersonal. But I've caught myself doing that, and that person's not going to respond to my good news or want to talk to me about anything else if all I'm throwing at them is just a little yellow happy face.
Yeah.
Like, they want, even in the digital age, like you're saying, you really do have to be able to give a little bit of personal interaction through the computer.
Right.
And you can do that.
Even if the main ways that you communicate with somebody is through social media. Or in the military, obviously, people move, people go away, and social media kind of still keeps us together.
Yep.
Send them a text, a phone call, something a little bit more personal, and just a thumbs up. Right? And we can still celebrate that good news. And we're still in their lives. We still care about them. They still care about us. It's a big circle.
It's not weird, right? Like, if you see something that's posted to Facebook to then text that person about it?
No, not weird at all.
Okay.
To me, it's a little bit more personal.
I've learned something new today.
But
I like that. I'm going to do that.
Yeah. So, overall, difficulty about celebrating good news. It might feel awkward at first. If you're not a person who does this typically, it's going to feel awkward. Everybody's going to look at you like you're being awkward about it. But you can just be authentic. Like, you can't fake this skill. So people sense that you're just like doing it just to do it. It's going to be weird.
Yeah, it's going to be easily spotted.
Yeah.
I think at that point. So, for sure, make sure you're doing it authentically.
Yeah.
Like, we have no problem, obviously, because we're good friends.
Yeah.
But
so how did it feel when someone celebrated that good news with you, right? So obviously I feel good because Nick's just talking about grass, but he's happy. I'm happy for him. He's got something going on.
I'm very happy.
He's very happy, right? Especially in times like this when we're just looking for good news. The news like we're just like looking for some kind of good news.
Yeah.
That this really helps. The little things are gonna add up. My wife, she has been working a lot during this coronavirus pandemic.
Right, yeah.
Right? And so kind of finding, the happy bits of her day and celebrating those to kind of outweigh maybe the negative things that happen are important too. You can celebrate little things as much as you can big things.
Yeah, so you make a good point. Like, this again, so obviously all of what we're talking about should apply to the professional setting. So in the context of the professional setting, we want to make sure that when our airmen come to us or somebody that we supervise comes to us with good news, we talk about making that piggy bank. We really keep feeding that piggy bank. Make sure you talk about the good news with them. Make sure that you're interacting in a positive way with them, and then also keeping an eye out for those B conversations. But like you're talking about, this can be applied to at home, which we've talked about, like bleeds right into your personal or your professional life. So there's almost no separating them now. So like you're saying, you're with your wife. Make sure that you can kind of cultivate that relationship by celebrating that good news, because I agree, right now you need that good news.
Yeah.
We all need that good news. So let's celebrate it together, like you're saying.
So remember, we're going to do that by using our SABB method, right? So enthusiastic support, facial expressions, your body language. Again, if I'm turning over here, I'm not talking to Nick, right? Just be enthusiastic about it. It doesn't have to be big enthusiasm. It can be a little enthusiasm. That's what you're about. But you just want to make sure that we'll get down, being authentic about it. Obviously, I'm not a person very often. Right. It'd be weird if I was.
It would be weird. It might actually be more frightening, I think, if you were more over the top than you were.
Right. But you want to ask questions. You want to get people talking. You open-ended questions like, are you happy about that? All right. Dead-end question doesn't really go anywhere. Get them talking about it. And you just want to be engaged and interested.
Definitely, yeah. So make sure that you're actually engaging with that person. So like you said, the body language is almost half of that, I think. And then, the rest of it is listening, which is a big deal. Our generation isn't too good at that, but, something that we have to work on. Make sure that you're not waiting to talk.
Yep.
Definitely listen and actually hear what they're saying. And don't just be waiting to say the next thing that you want to say.
Yeah.
Sab, not the car.
The sob. But all right, so I think we're going to throw it up now for questions. Nope. All right.
We don't have any questions? All right. Well, thank you, Dyess family. Thank you to the top 3 for hosting our activity here as RTAs. We really love being able to talk about what we know and the skills that we've learned and being able to spread that. Ryan?
Definitely. I think these skills, especially just learn how to balance your thinking and still bring good news, they kind of go hand in hand to where, if we can reshape how we're thinking about certain situations, maybe everything is just a little bit happier.
We could all use a little bit more happy right now. Thank you very much, and have a great afternoon.
This was a broadcast of the Dyess Top 3. We broadcast these professional development courses every Friday at 1500. Have a great day.